Hey, how you doing? Daniel Rose Tyson here with another Writer's Life. Thought I'd post another video just before I have my lunchtime porridge, which I think is my favourite part of the day. Slow day, up early, then just come back from the cemetery. My sister and I took my aunt to the cemetery. It's a strange thing going to the cemetery because rather than it's not so much about going to see take flowers to my mum there. It's more about the people that aren't around anymore who I used to go there with, over the last 20 years. It tends to be them I think about, like my dad. And we used to go every Saturday, and every Saturday he would stop. I mean, it's a long walk to where my mum is, and he'd always stop in the same place. There was a gravestone, Gary Cooper, some guy born in 1945 and died in 1998. And my dad, every week without fail, is that the actor Gary Cooper? Every week I would have to explain to him Gary Cooper was making films from the 1920s onwards. That's not Gary Cooper. This went on for a couple of years. So yeah, back from there. It's always a bit weird going there. It's anyone who goes to pay their respects to relatives' grave will know that it is quite a high maintenance in terms of keeping the whole area clean. And my aunt, to her credit, more than anyone the last 20 years, is the one that's doing that. Obviously, she's very frail now. So got to do more than I've done in the past, but I'll never be able to reach her cleanliness standards. I mean, she really does know how to keep a clean gravestone. We went for hot chocolate afterwards, at which point my aunt remembered that it was her 54th wedding anniversary. She then started telling my sister and I about when she, well, first of all, she told us that my oldest cousin, her first child, was conceived on their honeymoon night in Spain. Never knew that, but it kind of fits in with the timeline. And that my uncle, when she first came to London with him, because he was here first, trying to make sure everything was ready for her arrival, that he had 15 pairs of underpants in a bag that hadn't been washed, and rather than wash pants, he would just buy new ones. So, two things there that I didn't know this morning. Also encountered a beggar in the cemetery, which was strange. Came right up to me, offered me their hand. I wasn't going to take their hand, although, there was a certain irony that here was someone actually offering me a proper traditional handshake. Sorry about the camera wobble there. It's always a pain holding this phone. But yeah, London is on its arse. I don't know the rest of the country, what state it's in, but London. I mean, one thing I've seen this year that I've never seen before is beggars at bus stops, and at lots of bus stops. It's a new thing now. It's a common sight to see beggars at ATM machines, cash points, if you're not comfortable with that Americanism, which I might have been guilty of there. So, seen a lot of beggars at bus stops in South London, seen a lot of beggars in Camberwell. I don't think I've ever seen as many beggars as I've seen in Camberwell this year since the early 90s, when Waterloo had that cardboard city, which I remember walking through a few times and, being really wary, and it was a real eye-opener. But yeah, it's not a good time in London. And Camberwell, I never really liked Camberwell, but it's one of the few pockets of South London that are left that remind me of the South London I grew up in. I like its shabbiness. It's not being gentrified. There's, the odd place, the odd street that's certainly being gentrified, but it's still the South London that I remember. And, I've got nothing against change. The problem with change in South London, it's always meant the same thing. That's my problem. There's no choice. It's like we're going to try and be the new Clapham. That I have a problem with. Later today, I've got a packed day tomorrow, which involves travelling to central London. I've got a poor sense of direction. I used to know Soho, central London. I used to know it like the back of my hand. And the last decade, I've just lost that knowledge. I've never been very good with street names, but I've always known my way through areas. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of lost that knowledge. So even though where I'm going tomorrow is somewhere that I've been to hundreds of times in the past, I've not been there for a while, and I'm now trying to remember how to get there. It will mean that I need to shave later on today. Not something I really enjoy doing these days, which is strange because, back in the 90s, honestly, I used to build my whole week around the shave. I almost lived for the shave. My first friends would be getting together with their girlfriends, setting up home. I never envied them. I never envied them. They were getting laid left, right, and centre. Meantime, I'm in a Z bed every night. I'm living at home with my mum in a bedsit. But the love I felt, the anticipation, the heightened anticipation for that weekly shave, and dreaming up new overly sculpted goatees. People should have envied me. I didn't. There was no need for me to envy them. And I would always think, okay, what am I going to do this week with the beard? How am I going to do it? Where am I going to cut it? Where am I going to split the tash and the beard? I think it was before Sunrise, the Sunrise films, the Richard Linklater films with Ethan Hawke and is it Julia Delphi? That was an epiphany, that film. It was shown on Channel 4 in April '98, one Sunday night, and for the first time I saw the split goatee, because at the time the fashion was for the Ricky Gervais office goatee, which, by the time The Office came around in 2001 was actually a very dated beard. And I saw Ethan Hawke with this split beard, and I thought, my God, I actually stood up. I stood up. What is that? That is an incredible beard. It was the first time I've had that reaction to a film, other than the end of Don't Look Now, when you see that little dwarf at the end, which scared the hell out of me. So I saw that Ethan Hawke beard, which meant that I would have to split the tash and the beard here. So I would cut here, and I spent a couple of days trying to think how I was going to do this, and it took maybe 3 or 4 months to get it right, but I never went back to the all around the mouth goatee after that. It was an enormous moment. That love for the moustache and facial hair in general, beards, it came from I think the fourth or fifth series of the $6 Million Man in the late 70s. I had my $6 Million Man action doll. Suddenly Steve Austin, the Bionic Man, had a moustache in one year of the show. I thought, this doesn't look like Steve Austin anymore, my doll. So I stole some plasticine from work, stuck it on the doll. I had my Steve Austin back. Ever since then, facial hair. Not so much these days, but, for a good sort of 20, 25 years, I was obsessed with facial hair. I was fascinated by how a man could change their face just by growing a moustache, a beard. And I'm not sure I was ever more impressed by a beard than I was that night when I saw Ethan Hawke on my screen. Anyway, please click the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. Some of you, I think, are subscribing to the wrong YouTube account. I actually only have one, youtube.com/Daniel Ruiz Tyson. But there is another YouTube attached to my email address. It's all very confusing. This is the one that you need to subscribe to get notified of the latest videos. I'm off to have a shave. I'm off to have some porridge. I hope you enjoy your day.